Hey man, welcome back to Man Time and part 4 of our 3-stage upgrade process. It was about to be like stage 3.5 and I cut the video short there to think about kind of what I wanted to do with the cylinder. We're going to talk about that on this episode and hopefully we'll wrap it up. Welcome to Man Time. Alright, so I was thinking about it last night, and I don't think I'm going to be happy with just a pop-up piston in there. And the second thing was, well, there's a lot of things. Let's just go through all the things, right? I've seen these saws run stock. I think the pop-up piston is going to give me better compression, which is going to be better power, but it's actually taken away the speed by adding, or taking away the base gasket there. My exhaust roof got lower. So what was probably once like 159, 160 is now 158, which is going to be actually slower. And this saw runs slow out of the gate. Now the opposite side of that is the components are a lot smaller, right? The piston, the wrist pin, like the crank, like it's all just a little bit smaller than the comparable 60 cc Husqvarna from the same era, like the 61. The 261, what did they come out with after that? There was something there in between the 365 and the 61, I think. Either way, my thought process is I'm not going to be happy with the saw, just with the pop-up piston and that. And I haven't even touched the transfers, so I'm going to take a good hard look at the cylinder. I'm going to put it on camera and tell you kind of what I'm seeing. And then we're going to start grinding. So it's it should turn out pretty good. Alright, let's see if we can get a look inside of here. Alright, so here is our transfers. And this is really the only thing that I see that could use some work. And what you want to do there is look at the outside here and look at the, volume that we have available. Right, when we start grinding, this is our limit, right? So we want to get in here and really take advantage of what we have left. And you can see there that port is pretty choked down. So that is really where I'm going to be focusing my efforts. The intake here is going to be intake. Yes, okay. The intake looks pretty good. It's got some little ridges in there. I might touch that up a little bit, but as far as it goes, it's a nice symmetrical shape. I don't see too much of anything really going on there. Exhaust side right here looks to be a nice, pretty significant, sized exhaust port. And inside of here, same thing, really nice symmetrical. Let's see if I can get some of this stuff out of here. There we go. Yeah, again, really nice symmetrical. The only thing I'm thinking about doing here is making the top of this a little bit more D-shaped. And that's basically it. Looks pretty good. Right, I'm going to get to grinding here. A couple tips when you're grinding, and what I like to do is take that first tool and hit all the spots that you want to hit in the plating first. Of course, use your lube. I've got some ATF here. So dip your cutter in that ATF. I'm going to do the Iron Horse Harvey horns first on the intake. Hit that exhaust roof right in the middle, and we'll start there. And then it's a whole lot of work on these transfers. Man, I don't know about you, but 90 and humid feels really good when you're used to 105. Okay, so here we go. YouTube was all about show and tell, so we'll look at these transfers. And what I did here, if you look at it from the exhaust side, like down here, I really worked on this side of the transfers because I want it shooting back toward the intake, right? Here's our intake down here and transfers. So I really worked on this edge going back and toward that intake. So this is porting for flow Did the Harvey horns right inside there. You can see on the top side of the intake. Widened it just a little bit, and then transfer here. Cleaned up that upper transfer. There's a little ridge on that, and then exhaust side running here. Yeah. So I did just a nice D shape to the top of it up in there. Clean that up. Not a big fan of the polishing. Don't really care too much about that. Took the diamond burr bit, chamfered all these edges, and then went around there with 400 grit and then 800 grit just to make sure it is all nice and smooth and chamfered. So, next thing you want to look at before you put your saw back together is your play on your crankcase, your bearings, making sure those are moving freely and there's no slop play, any kind of weird noises as you're kind of jerking your crank around. Anywho, it's Friday night. What can you do? This is how some of us men spend our Friday nights, right? Okay, so I've cleaned, double cleaned, triple cleaned. I'm gonna quadruple clean with brake clean all of our mating surfaces here, making sure that all of the dust, dirt. Of course, if you haven't listened to me in my previous videos, make sure you get yourself some brake clean. Just buy a case of it if you're going to be working on more than one of these, because you go through a saw, pretty much. So this is all sprayed out down in here. This has been sprayed out. I'm going to spray it out again and then spray my hands. And then I'm going to be going to use the Permatex Moto Seal gasket maker. Again, with the nice big flat wide surface like this, it works just fine. But on your 365, 372 type saws with a really thin wall right below the transfers, that's where you want to use a base gasket and machine down to your squish that you want. That's my humble opinion, and take that as you will. So I'm going to get this cleaned off, get some Moto Seal on here, and then we'll get it back together. So here's an important thing not to forget. That's this clamp right here for your manifold if you're going to go this route. So I got the got the rings on the piston and got the piston on there, and then I get my Moto Seal on there and kind of get everything going the right direction. And then I'm starting to, I've got my ring compressor here, and I'm putting the jug on, and I'm going, oh geez, I better figure out how I'm going to get this clamp on the intake, or get this intake boot onto the, jug. And then I look and realize that I didn't have that on there. So, anywho, yeah, don't skip ahead. You'll miss important stuff like that. I do, this is man time. This is what videos that I want to make, and the stuff that I don't really enjoy watching or find exciting to watch, things like grinding, I edit that stuff out. I take the hour out of your time watching my video to do that grinding on my own, and then give you the content that I would want to watch. Alright, so now we've got our Moto Seal on there. I'm going to give it just a little shot of ATF right down on top of the piston. One thing using this Moto Seal, you don't want any sort of oil, grease, lubricants, anything anywhere near it. So I've stopped oiling my piston rings until after the fact. I also will let it set up even before I run the cylinder all the way down, because it's squished out on the inside and it's squished out on the outside a little bit. So I don't want that piston skirt going into the Moto Seal at this point either. So I've got a little bit down there. That's going to act as a lubricant for the rings to get them, seated and stuff. Moto Seal on there. It's down in here. This is a pretty tight, compact little saw, so it's hard to see down in there. But I think we are ready Now I'm going to just give these one last little torque and then get it back together. And you've already seen me take it apart in the last video. If you missed that last video, make sure to subscribe so you can find that video. I've also got some playlists, some Stihl and Husqvarna chainsaws. This isn't my day-to-day, but this is what I enjoy to do on my days off and on a Friday night, apparently. So, I've also got some clutch springs. I'm going to get those on here. You've seen me do a clutch before. If you haven't, subscribe to my channel. Look back on the channel there. I do clutch springs on a Stihl 056 vintage or antique saw revival. So check those videos out. But in the meantime, I'm going to get this back together. I've got all my exhaust bits and pieces cleaned up here. Muffler, I'm going to give that one more spray out and blow out. And again, you don't want any of that dirt, dust, anything getting, you know, down on this moto seal while we're waiting for it to set up. But a nice little squish band coming out right there of that moto seal. Yeah, looking good so far. Can't wait to try out this pop-up coated piston. You can see it down in there, that gray. It is hopefully going to make for less friction, which the two-ring pistons need, and hopefully it'll make some power for us. So, alright, we're going to give this overnight to set up. In the meantime, I'm going to do some other things that you've already seen, or if you haven't, check out some other videos of mine, and then we'll put it in some wood back up against the 261. The 261 being stock, and now this one being ported, but the numbers on this one were already right where I wanted them. If you missed the last video, I went through and timed the cylinder, but now we're looking at just a little bit more exhaust duration, so we're looking at 160 to 162. With that pop-up, we should be plenty fine there. A lot more flow through those transfers, and then the horns on the top side of the intake. So, I think we'll be sitting pretty darn good. Stick around for seeing this saw in the wood. Right. Well, some people don't like to watch the soup being made. They just want to taste the soup, right? So this is for you. Let's give it a first start. Been sitting overnight. Oh, there's choke. Yeah, so I could tell right away that that clutch, the springs are worn out. Now, I did order a set of OEM springs, but looking at the hub here, it's really worn, and it's got a groove right inside of there. And I didn't want to take a chance, you know, with the new springs and everything. So I went online and I just ordered like the cheapest clutch kit I could find. USA stock off of eBay. And the really cool thing about this is, check this out. It has actually got the larger hub. So like all of my normal 3/8/7 stuff is going to fit right on here. So I can just have one, you know, spare sprocket for either this or the Husqvarna style. But this was like 15 bucks. It comes with the hub, sprockets, 2 sprockets, and a full, like, new clutch. And so this one is more like a Husqvarna style. But you can see these springs, they're really nice and collapsed. E-clip, bearing. So let's put this on here while this cools down from that first heat cycle. So quick little zip off with the gun there, clockwise, left hand thread, lefty tighty. Yeah, and this one's got some heat affected areas. Doesn't look bad. I'm gonna definitely keep this and keep this this stock configuration with the smaller hub there. But you can see the difference, you know, in the two of them. This one has the much bigger hub. It's also got a bearing to match. We'll test all that out here to see if it fits. And in the meantime, okay. In the meantime, we can get a look in here and check to make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. Now this is looking pretty like it got heated up here. So if you're wondering about the inner workings on this thing, here's our oil pump right here. This is turning, let's see here, I guess it's pumping this away. Let's see, we've got this that goes on next. We've got our new clutch. And this is, the nice thing about this one is, it's got the hub, you know, sitting right over it. So again, we've got our lineup for our pump. Get that lined up here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not even fitting in there. Oh, there it goes, kind of. I don't know. That's a pretty tight fit. Not really liking that. But we'll see here. Alright, well, we got our new clutch assembly on there. That wasn't too bad. Now we can start it up. And actually what I did here, I turned the high and low jet in just a little bit since it was it's now running pig rich, and that's kind of what we wanted or expected. When we do a port job, all of a sudden it'll just start running rich like that. All right, let's get back to some choke. Alright guys, you made it with me this far. I gotta show you this one thing. It wasn't supposed to be in the video. I'm just heat cycling. I'm on my second tank. This thing has just come alive, and I'm going to show you the warm-up process for heat cycles. So you made it this far, you might as well stick around. It's not easy and it's not pretty, but you gotta wait for it to warm up. It's cold. Heat cycles. Hot, all the way cold, back to room temperature. Moment of truth time. We're about to put this in the wood. I'd first like to just recap a little bit. Total cost spent on this saw, it was $50, and then maybe put about another 50, 60 bucks into parts. The piston was about 30 bucks, 35. Some of the other things we did there, carb kit 15, air filter about 10 bucks. Really not too much. I didn't use that gasket kit that I bought, so we're just maybe over 100 bucks into this. I did some additional upgrades to include changing it over to a 3/8, so if you don't have a 3/8 bar and chain, I mean, that's going to run you 100 bucks right off the bat. But I think we're about ready to get it in the wood here. I'm going to fire up both saws, get them warmed up. The 261, we're going to put it back up against that. I'm going to go with some pine here because I think I've changed the physiology of the chainsaw here by, I mean, not really taking it too far. I'd be careful with that Duke's piston because the timing numbers you get out of it with this combination, it's pretty much spot on. You probably don't even need to do any porting. But let's talk about that. So we did quite a bit of work to those transfers. Opened up the exhaust roof a little bit, gave it a little bit more blowdown, didn't touch the intake. We're 158 there, and it's running incredible now. So maybe it's the sum of all the parts, right? We did this exhaust mod, we did the piston, and we did the port work. Seems to be running just phenomenally. Let's check it out in the wood. No cuts. Go right to it. Alright, man, well, there you have it. The Stihl 036, just over $100 chainsaw. I mean, just murdering wood. Put the 261 now to shame. It bogged out. I was thinking this was going to be a little less powerful with the higher RPMs and stuff that it has now. It doesn't seem to be that way. It seems to be faster and more powerful. You know, basically everything you could want in a chainsaw. So we'll see how it holds up over time. I'm going to be using this thing in the wood. I've got some stuff in the woods to do with the backhoe here coming up shortly. So make sure to subscribe, catch those videos, see this thing in use in the forest. That's going to do it for today on Man Time, guys. Get out there, have you some man time too. Alright, one final test before I get too sweaty here. It's going to be 110 in the shade today, that's for sure. Let's try it in some hardwood.